Hey everybody, before we get started, I just remind you this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Adam DeHarp, Architect 10, Black G, Carlos, Dragon, Ferris, Jeremy Vasquez, Joseph LaFay, Jonathan Sandoval, Legendary Boss Hunter, Liam Kessler, Regent Raptor, Rise of Kenji, Rogue Robin, Charvor, Sean Pryor, some guy named Bob, Siren23, Baron the Crow, and many more. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it will really help us out. Thank you for your support, everyone. Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk FGO Wanted, the show where we let you know if you want to roll that 5-star. And also some 4 stars. Because it's summer, so the episode is weird. This is your first ever Wanted video. This is not typically how these are formatted. Usually we only do the banner SSR, but the summers are like big blobs of limited units all together. So, in order to make the video worthwhile, we cover all the new limited guys on the banners. So, if you want a more typical Wanted experience, go back and find the Wanted Castoria, because that episode did pretty good and is out there and is more normal. Normally, we talk about stuff like history, folklore, etc., but summers are always alts, and while there may actually be, like, occasionally some funny lore stuff in there to mention, though a lot of that gets brought up naturally in the servants, like profiles and bonds and stuff, it's not enough that I can base the whole video around usually, because they're already characters, a lot of whom are SSRs, some of whom have already been covered on this show, or exist in the gray area from before we even did this show. Like, for instance, I'm fairly certain we've got a Wanted Bryn video. Pretty sure I did Wanted Kiara? I don't know about Wanted, like, Prisma Illya. That may have been before I started doing Wanteds, and I never brought back for a banner. But I might have. I don't know. There's a lot of Wanted videos. This is, like, Wanted 82. So, yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff. We're not going to be doing the normal format. We're going to do the big blowout. And we're going to hit all the summer servants really quick, because also this is the same day, by the way, that they're coming out tonight, and I have to stream Great Ace Attorney, so we're deactivating brakes and accelerating to plaid. Play that audio clip I have saved somewhere about Albert trying to kill me. Now, we're going to go in reverse order, so if you want to see about the SSR, you're going to have to stay tuned. All right, let's get to work. All right, so we're going to start with Summer Bryn in her honeymoon phase. She is a 4-star berserker with median attack and HP for that class and rarity slot. Classic Gorilla deck, so 3 Buster cards, one of the other 2 kinds of cards. As a result, even though her hit counts are pretty average, her NP gain is pretty good. So keep that in mind when using your little Quicken Arts cards. Her NP is, in fact, very straightforward. It's a Buster AoE. You've got Pierce Invul for 1 turn, and it does Buster Plus as well, based on Overcharge as first. Nothing much to write home about. Skill number 1 is 2 hits, 3 turns evade, and a 500 to 100... 100? 1,000. I'm literally looking at the notes. You're looking at the notes, too. Anyway, it's damage cut, 3 hits, 3 turns, that goes from 500 to 1k. Don't know what I'm talking about. Final skill is 20 to 30% arts and Buster Up for self, and also that same value, though it's all on 1. For those with the Loved One trait, which is a decently diverse area. So, mostly it's an NP steroid for herself, but it can also steroid for other units. Passes are just Madness Enhancement D-, and Divinity E. There was a typo in my notes, but I caught it this time. All in all, Bryn's a pretty straightforward berserker. She has her own ways to generate NP. You know, she gains per turn and stuff like that, and her arts card does slap pretty hard. So she deals fairly consistent damage with her NP, and her first skill is a pretty consistent way to avoid damage. So you can basically have her do pocket support with people with a Loved One trait. You need to mix clearing ads with DPS. She'll give them an NP steroid, and also generate stars per turn if they have greater star weight than her, which they do. She's a berserker. While also keeping herself alive and, like, steadily generating her NP. And again, not quite true damage, but auto-pierce and a Buster Up on the NP means you'll slap ads pretty hard. Team Comm is pretty simple. She's got a lot of Buster. Merlin works, gives her boosts on crits, which she does generate stars, gives her extra attack, extra Buster, extra HP, always good with berserkers. And obviously, more Buster support is coming in the future. We'll discuss that in the future. But you could substitute, like, a waiver or Renez for general support. I would even favor Renez because of her defensive class disadvantage, I had to say that correctly, canceling out effect. So that works very well for berserker support. For your DPS, if you want to use that Loved One bonus, there's a lot of those. Sigurd indeed works, but you can just pick whoever is Arts or Buster who would mesh up. That's pretty decent. For CEs, Bryn doesn't really do anything too crazy. Like, this segment's going to be quite short because there's not really a lot to say here. Hey, it's Bryn. There's also a little, like, extra Sigurd in the NP, and she has a very straightforward kit. Berserker go smush, go burr, cut the wedding cake. So your CE selection will be very straightforward. Anything that does Buster, So, limited 0 over, that kind of stuff. And any kind of starting NP you want to work on to make that lineup work out better, It can be as simple as Golden Sumo, or it can be something more complex. You can do like a K-Scope Sumo and can get her up right away. Whatever floats your boat. It's very effective. Berserkers with AoE that does a lot of damage. You guys know how to do this, I'm sure, by now. Now, you're going to want to keep an eye on her Ascension stuff. She is pretty normal, but she needs a lot of seashells for everything, like every Summer Servant. But do keep in mind, if you want to level up those skills, you are going to need 20 silver crowns per skill. So if you're rolling for Bryn to complete the honeymoon package, keep that one in mind. That might be a little steep. So it's pretty interesting. So far, she's only got the 2 banners, Summer Camp 5. Well, Summer 5, the Summer Camp, and the rerun. And will be a bonus servant in this time as well. She's also a bonus servant on Imaginary Scramble. I believe that's every swimsuit servant, but I will reiterate it when we talk about these other ones later. And also because she comes with glasses inherently, not a costume, she's also a bonus servant in the future Respectable Individuals White Day event. Funny how that works out. And yeah, that's all I got for Bryn, really, other than, again, commenting on, chainsaw cake cutting. There's not a lot to it. Very straightforward berserk things. Moving swiftly on, we are moving on to Summer Illya, who's got that summer vacation energy. She is not yet ready to go home. Now she's a 4-star archer with, for that class slot, fairly high attack and mostly low HP. Kind of funny how that works out. So she's got a QQAAB deck, average hit counts, and fairly good NP gain even for those numbers. So you'll be doing some decent work there. Her NP is AoE quick. It activates Sure Hit first. Kind of funny that we're going with a theme here. And it improves all of her cards, projection style, for 1 turn based on overcharge. Though the hit counts are pretty average on this. It's no 10 or 7 hitter. But still, AoE quick with Sure Hit. All cards improved for 1 turn. Her first skill is 10 to 20% quick for 3 turns, increases her Stargather on quick, and gives her 50 to 100% crit up for 1 turn. So the usual big crit damage up, slightly smaller quick up, but over several turns. Her second skill gives her a 1-hit 3 turns invul, 20 to 30% NP gain for 3 turns. That's gain, not battery. And then increases the attack of all child servants for 10 to 20%. Illya's opinion on what counts as a child is sometimes questionable. You can look up this trait. It includes, most of the people you would think, but some of the people you wouldn't, and also some characters you would think, but aren't, somehow. Again, it's got to be based on what Illya thinks for how this works, but because otherwise it doesn't make any gosh darn sense. Still, it's a charisma for children charisma. Final skill is a 20 to 30% battery, 30 to 50% crit up for 3 turns, and a 70% chance to give her a 500 HP regen for 5 turns. Remember that they did that rank up for Chloe that does the buff increase on Illya. I don't know why they bother making it only like 500 HP in that case, but yeah, she can get like 2,500 back over 3 turns. Now, she does have pretty good passives, Summer Illya does. She's got Magic Resistance A, so her debuff immunity pretty high natively. Independent Action B for more crit damage, and she keeps her usual Illya 3% NP per turn. So, I don't know if she will traditionally loop in that you'll just get the overkill max out with Scotty on her quick, because it's only got 5 hits, but she does have a lot of ways to generate NP back herself. Keep that in mind. Like I said, not probably having enough hits for the traditional loop strategy, but she has a lot of crit bonuses. If you max out all of her skills, and with her passive, you're looking at 150% damage up-ish. It's actually 158, on her own, natively, without any further support. So that's pretty good. You can probably mean that without any additional support, you can use her to clear ads, generate a shitload of stars, stuff like that, and then on a follow-up turn, go for quite big crits and actually focus down on a boss. A fairly decent strategy these days in FGO with break bars and stuff. Obviously, she won't be as powerful as some SSRs in that respect, but, decent longevity, decent crit potential. You can work with that. Comp-wise, she is quick crit, so Scotty is still probably the best support for her, and other critical enhancers. Just as a note, I will say Hans is a really funny choice here because he counts as a child also and is general quick support along with some other stuff. So that would work out there. I would also throw out there that, hey, she does still have 2 arts cards, so actually generating her NP is pretty good, and you might be able to capitalize on the new Castoria meta. Castoria will be a bonus servant this summer as well, and also just gives attack and arts up, so remember the projection on her NP is all cards. And can also work with units like Kazgil. He just got a buff to, like, Star Generation and Critical. Well, he's always had the buff to Star Generation, but he got a buff to Critical up on his NP. So, there are some interesting, like, weird Askance kits. And don't forget that Summer Illya has 2 arts cards. You can actually do some weird things with this. I would also throw out there, obviously, since she is also an archer, if you happen to have a Chloe welfare from, either of the runs of that event, that's also not a bad option. Obviously, Chloe is one of the, signature old school, arts DPSers for welfares. Quite a lot of potential there. But the fact that she raises Illya's buff chance, and they are both archers, means that you can do the old wombo combo of AoE NP, clears away ads, STNP, drops boss kind of a thing. Keep it in mind. Now, she has a 20% minimum battery, 20 to 30% on that skill. So K-Scope is on the menu if you want to just go down and dirty, go directly to NP, do not pass go effects. Other than that, I don't really see a lot of CE recommendations for Summer Illya. I would assume you would want to lean on her critical effects because that's the one area where she really stands out with the 2 separate crit up skills with different timers. So anything that inherently increases critical damage is probably a good idea. I think Dangerous Beast does that as well as Quick Up, for instance. Stuff like that. There's quite a few of those lurking around if you want to work for some stuff. Mats-wise, she is a little bit demanding, so keep this in mind if you're rolling. To ascend, she will need sorely depleted eggs, and for her skills, she will need a lot of those little god orb things. And also, why do you need so much spinal fluid, Illya? What is going on at summer camp? But keep those in mind. Those can be pretty demanding, especially since some of those are newer, and the eggs were obviously just needed for Castoria. Now, Summer Illya has her rate-ups on Summer 5 in its rerun, as you would expect, but also has probably some kind of banner in the future. It was tied to one of the Prisma movie releases, so they'll probably figure out a way to give us a rate-up equivalent to that, like maybe during a Thanksgiving, or you could do back to school, I guess. That would be funny, right? Some of those unique little banners we sometimes get over in NA, but there's no guarantee when or where that will be. I will just assume because JP got an extra rate up for her, they will figure out a way to do that for us. Just how and where, I have absolutely no idea, okay? And she's a bonus servant for Summer 5 in Imaginary Scramble, which is later this year. And now it is time for the big kahuna. Summer Kiara, a new SSR Moon Cancer with a funny animation for summoning. Also, a lot going on with, personal relationships and mythology. Some references about, The Little Mermaid, but also an actual, Buddhist fairy tale. Yaobikuni and stuff like that. Look it up sometime. Anyway, we don't really have a lot to compare to in this department. So the thing you probably want to know is that Summer Kiara has a smidge less attack than Summer BB and a smidge more HP. Not a lot either way. Very close, comparable, but just a scooch in the other directions. She is QAABB, well-rounded hit counts, decent NP gain, pretty typical for this year's summer. You're looking at a lot of 3 and 4 hits and above 0.5 generation per hit type stuff. Now, her NP is actually pretty interesting. So at its basis, it's Arts AoE, pretty typical for Kiara, and it does additional damage based on how many mental debuffs the enemy has. I will double-check that list later when we talk about strategy and stuff, so just keep that in mind. Does more damage based on how many mental debuffs they have, with 10 stacks being the maximum, very typical for this type of NP, similar to how Romulus Quirinius gets extra damage on stacks of the Roman trait, stuff like that. It also has an instant death chance, which it checks for after damage, which is based on overcharge. So this can slap pretty hard, you need a little bit of setup, and even without it, it is still just a Arts AoE NP. She already has kind of a permanent NP effect up, we'll talk about in the passives, so it'll still hit pretty hard. Her first skill, the Mermaid's Flesh, gives her a 2k to 4k guts one time, 5 turns, removes her debuffs, gives her a 1k to 2k heal per turn for the duration, and a 20% NP damage up for 3 turns. So a pretty solid skill as well. It also gives her this skill up buff per turn for 4 turns, and each of the skill up buffs is for 4 turns. These skill up or skill rank up effects improve her other 2 skills. They're little stacks she generates over time that makes her other skills better. This is grossly complicated, and as you can see, I am only showing the basic level of the skills in the graphic, because if I had to show 3 layers per skill, yes, there's 3, this screen would be crazy. It would be very weird. So we're going to show the baseline, and I'm going to explain to you the higher levels. I'm pretty sure this is why I don't think this mechanic has been used since Summer Kiara. It's very complex. Well, honestly, it's not very complex, actually. Functionally, it's very simple. The problem is telling people about it is hard, because you've got lots of extra numbers. Skill 2 is normally a 20 to 30% battery and 10 to 20 stars. Very simple stuff. If you have 1 stack of skill up, it will consume that stack, but it raises the battery to 30 to 40% and raises the stars to 15 to 25%. If you have 2+ stacks, it consumes 2 stacks, but is a 30 to 50% battery and is a 20 to 30 star bomb. And yes, even if you have the skill rank ups, your effects are also still influenced by your skill level, so you want to level your skills anyway. So this goes from, like, using K-Scope to something like using Dive to Blue. That can be pretty important, but requires you to wait a while to build up the skill stacks. So her third skill is similar. Its default is always 1 hit, 3 turns evade. It removes sure hit from all enemies. That's a pretty funny little debuff there. And it gives all enemies 10 to 20% defense down, 20% arts res down flat, and a stack of something called Bewitchment, Enchantment, something. We don't know exactly what the localization is going for, but gives them a little debuff, which is mental, which reduces their critical rate by 10% for 3 turns per stack. Skill up +1, which, if you remember, consumes 1, is 2 stacks of Bewitchment, 15 to 25% defense down, and 25% arts down flat. And skill up +2 is 3 stacks of Bewitchment, so 30% crit down for 3 turns, 20 to 30% defense down, and 30% arts res down. That's a lot of debuffs. Can be quite powerful, very effective. Reduces enemy crit chance, all that fun stuff. Also gives them extra stacks for her NP damage. Her passives are Territory Creation EX, so those arts cards hit, very powerful. Independent Manifestation E, that's mental debuff, instant death resistance, stuff like that. She has her unique Logos Eater, though in this form it's down-ranked 1, so it's only 14% defense versus humanoids, not 16, but still. She gets extra defense. And a new passive, Spiritual World Creation EX, at least I think it's new anyway. It's a permanent 12% NP damage boost, which is, like I said, her NP already has a little bit of an inherent multiplier similar to effects that, like, activate first. Not as powerful, obviously, but between that and Territory Creation, that Arts NP will slap a little harder than you think, even without the bonus damage. And you can get that bonus damage a couple of ways. Basically, Summer Kiara is an Arts Stall Slammer Jammer. She has great longevity thanks to her first skill. Nothing to shrug at a 4k guts, a 2k heal per turn, and a self-debuff cleanse. And she has an inherent slow play mechanic to let you build up a couple of skill plus stacks. You actually need to wait on these to make the skill plus buffs go up and apply. This will produce very powerful skills. Like, seriously, if you think about it, her third skill at max stack is 30% crit down for 3 turns for the opponent, 30% critical chance down, and is, like I said, 30% arts resistance down and 30% defense down. Big slaps. But if you want to do that, you have to wait like all 4 turns, because remember, each time you use a skill that is skilled up, you will consume a number of stacks. 1 if you have 1, 2 if you have 2 or more. So you got to time this out very well and has a lot of waiting involved. This makes her basically a gimmick unit, but the damage potential on her NP is probably worth it. So, mental debuffs are Sleep, that'll be added with Summer Abbey in about a week, Bewitchment, or whatever they call it, Charm, Confusion, Terror, and Charm Resistance down. There's not a heck of a lot of synergy out there, but there are certainly some arts units with Charm or Terror out there that you can work with. And if you have any fun ideas about this, like any synergies with any of those mental debuffs, let me know in the comments. Searching by specific debuff is hard, but if you've got some ideas, like obviously the first thing that comes to mind is Urale obviously has a Charm, both an inherent Charm and a Charm on her NP, so you can make that maybe work for some stuff. So keep that in mind. Support-wise, Castoria just came out. You can easily overclock Kiara and have her NP hit stupid hard with the cavalcade of buffs provided by some combination of Castoria and Tamo. You can give her even more arts up, plenty of NP damage up, attack up, all that fun stuff, without even having to dip into her weird mental debuff, damaging pool or the extra skill buff stacking. You will slap pretty hard. Keep it in mind. For CEs, I would like to point out that Summer has a long-standing tradition of giving out art CEs, which are also 50% batteries. I would say start with those. Think Dive to Blue and work from there. There was also one in Summer 3, I think, and in Summer 4. Nah, not 4. This coming year. This summer, 5. God, there's so many summers, guys. It's hard to remember. Anyway, yes, so there's quite a few of these out there that you can work with. Give you 50% starting NP, which you can use to jump off with, say, a Castoria, or you can just use her battery with some stacks, whatever floats your boat. I would also point out there is an old CE called New Beginning. It was from a New Year's 4? No, 4 years ago is crazy. But 2 years ago now. That is 50% starting battery if you've got an MLB, but it is arts and crit up. Kiara might appreciate that. She doesn't really amp her own critical damage much, but she does have huge star bombs you can have access to, so you might consider spreading the love. That also probably makes Kazgil a possible supporter on a lower level. So, a few flexible things. Now, Being a Moon Cancer, her skill and Ascension mats are actually pretty reasonable for once. You do have to double dip, but compared to more exotic mats, that's pretty straightforward. I would say the only thing you really need to be mindful of is at the end of her skills there, you'll notice she needs 12 fruits per skill. So if you really want to max out those skills, you're going to want to keep that in mind. Now, Summer Kiara has raid-ups on Summer 5 in its rerun, and as a limited SSR, she will appear on all future Lucky Bag campaigns. That's her only dedicated raid-ups currently. I suspect we'll probably get some more in there someday, but yeah, those are what we're working with. She is obviously a bonus servant during Summer, obviously a bonus servant during Scramble, but also because she is a non-hominid type servant, she is a bonus servant in Tunguska, so keep that in mind for the future. And, alright guys, that's basically it. Sorry for the speed mode a little bit there, but I'm not exactly on summer vacation here, so I'm going to see you guys in like a week for another one of these. And hey, we got some good stuff out there. Kiara's a fairly complex unit mechanically. You might be interested in that, or you'll just be interested in her second Ascension like everybody is. Watch out for the horny bat, okay? But alrighty, that's the vidya today. I'll go ahead and move on with aplomb to go do other things I have to do. So, if you like this video, be sure to give it a like on YouTube. If you have any comments, leave them down below. How'd you do on the banner? What do you think about the team comps? You got any funny strategies to use any of these servants that maybe I didn't think of in the, 2 days I had to prep for this? Thanks, Albert. Let us know. Comments below. You can also join our Discord. That link's in the video description, as always. And remember, it has a dedicated roll thread. Post your rolls there. It's what it's for. If you're new here and haven't already, please subscribe to our channel to keep getting more wanteds. Just like I said, there's going to be a sequel to this one, in a week for the next batch of servants. And also consider ringing that bell for notifications so you always know when we post a new video, because I often have to post these at midnight because I'm in a terrible rush. Constantly. Not constantly, I'm joking. And also consider joining our channel membership for membership badges and emotes. And also, like I said at the front of the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to videos early, some videos earlier than others. I'll make up for this one by the fact that I posted Castoria 2 or 3 days early. This one's going to be hours early. But yeah, early on Patreon. You can listen to our podcast, Let's Talk FGO. By the way, we do a podcast every week about FGO. In audio format, downloadable on the Patreon platform, and it really helps us out and supports us and stuff. And that's all I got for you today. See you next time in Horny Jail.